Welcome back to TrimCooks. When I really have a taste for something, I try to make it. So today, I'm going to make a very special spaghetti sauce. Now the ingredients consist of canned tomato sauce and tomato paste. 4 15-ounce cans of tomato sauce, 4 12-ounce cans of tomato paste. I use it from the can because it saves time. We have chopped garlic. Now I took about a dozen or so small tomatoes, skinned them and crushed them. We have fresh basil, fresh oregano, fresh thyme. This is going to be a double recipe, so I use 2 tablespoons of each. Onions, both red and yellow, green pepper, chopped up celery salt, rosemary, bay leaves, marjoram, some sea salt, and black pepper. We have some meatballs. In the meatballs, put a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, cracked an egg in them, put a little bit of olive oil in them. Don't heavily season the meat. The sauce itself is going to be so full of flavor, and I'm going to actually cook the meat inside the sauce, so no need to season the meat. The first step is to brown the tomato paste. Just put a little bit of olive oil, drizzle it in the bottom of a pan. Sounds like I might have got a little bit of moisture inside this pan. See if we can cook off that moisture without popping ourselves. Okay, now once I have the tomato paste in the pan, I'm going to take the garlic and I'm going to add that to the paste. Very important to remember is constantly stir this, especially in this type of pan. Right? You don't want to scorch the bottom of the pan. Now that the tomato paste is slightly brown, don't want to overdo it, add 4 cans of water. The water content is equal to the number of cans of tomato paste that you put in. And once the water is added, you stir the paste and water mixture, and of course that fresh garlic, to a smooth consistency. Okay, now that I've stirred my tomato paste until it is smooth, I'm going to add my spices. I'm adding fresh as well as dry spices. Some rosemary, celery salt, crushed bay leaves, some marjoram leaves, a little bit of adobo, put in some sea salt, ground pepper. The next step is to add the tomato sauce. Stir that around a little bit. Then I'm going to add my crushed tomatoes, onions and green peppers. I always try to get fresh spices in the mix. See how thick that is. Not a very appealing consistency at the moment. Once it cooks down, it's going to turn out quite nicely. It's starting to smell pretty good too. I bring this to a boil, then I'll add the meat. I add the meat raw, so it's going to need to cook longer than had I browned the meat and cooked it halfway first. By putting the meat in raw, it actually soaks in all the flavor from all the spices, onions, garlic, and all that. While this is coming up to a boil, I'm going to add the meat. Plus my hands are clean, y'all. I wash my hands constantly when I'm cooking, just so you know. I like a lot of meat in my sauce. I want to point out, I use very lean cuts of beef, 90 or 95%. I like to minimize the amount of grease that ends up in the sauce, which is why I use a lean meat. And once I get this back up to a boil, I'm going to put it on a medium simmer and just let it ride for 4 to 6 hours. During the years that I've been making this sauce, I've picked up a couple of enhancements that I think make the sauce taste better. I have to tell you though, one of the reasons why I make such a big batch is because I like to freeze it. And believe me, when you take it out of the freezer and heat it up, it tastes better than it did the first day. Okay, now that this is at a boil, I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of brown sugar and get this, a squeeze of barbecue sauce. And as you can see, by the time that comes to a boil, it's starting to look more like sauce. All the spices and onions and all that dissolve. It's very key that when using a pot like this, that you stir frequently, because these pots tend to stick on the bottom. Got a little bit of stickage on there, not a whole lot. I'm going to turn this down to a medium simmer. That's where it's going to be for the next couple of hours. As you can see, the sauce is just about ready. I'm going to let it simmer for about another hour. Still have some chunks in there. The meat's done through and through. One more ingredient to add. Good old American. This really makes a difference. Let that melt in for a couple of minutes, and there you have it. Good old homemade spaghetti sauce. Thanks for watching.